I want to tell you what mercury poisoning does to a person. I have been through seizures. I have a diminished immune system. My life has been made a living hell.
We had to sue FDA, who promised for decades that they would classify amalgam. They would not do it. When I got before the federal judge in 2008, she was aghast that the Food and Drug Administration repeatedly would promise to act, but didn't. And the promises went on year after year, and the federal judge ordered the FDA to classify amalgam. That's the only reason they classified, is they were under an order from a federal judge.
Well, there really is no protection for the public because the Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration is essentially like a monarch in the 15th century. She's absolutely powerful in that there's no other power within the FDA to check her judgment. She is the ultimate source of decision-making power within the FDA. So unless she were to choose to recuse herself or to otherwise appoint someone else to make a decision, she will make those decisions. And if she thinks there is no conflict, even if others disagree, she can still act and decide.
If you look at the 20 years it took for a doctor to diagnose me, and that doctor was right here in Arlington, Texas. If you ask me, I know amalgams have been used for about 150 years in this country. If it took 20 years for someone to diagnose me, in my opinion, there is no telling who may have died from these things over the course of history, having had absolutely no idea what was wrong with them. It's sad. I consider the use of amalgams, because it's not being stopped, I consider it to be nothing less than a complete atrocity to humanity.
I really started to think about it and to think about my dental education. And then it occurred to me that I remembered when I was in dental school, and in one class we were taught that the mercury is bound up to the other metals in the amalgam mixture and that it doesn't leak. And then in another class, in dental materials or physiology, we learned that you can measure the mercury at the tip of the root of a tooth that's had a mercury filling in it. Well, if it doesn't leak, how in the heck did it get all the way down to the tip of the root? And I'm thinking, you know, why did I just accept this on blind faith when I was in dental school? We all did. And it's mainly, I guess, because we're right out of college, we're starting a dental career, and we think the people that are teaching us, you know, have so much more wisdom than we do. But now looking back on it, and from my now 30 years experience, or almost 30 years experience in it, that's a total fallacy, I believe.
But we have to finally start saying something. The day where I had to leave one particular dental practice was the day that I had been working on a client who was pregnant. She already had an autistic child. I found an old amalgam filling that had broken on her. I had been doing research on amalgam, and before I knew it, the dentist had said, oh, yeah, well, I happen to have some time in my book, and he took this pregnant woman and put a filling in her mouth, not using any safety precautions to make sure that as he vaporized the mercury, or the filling, I mean, there's nothing that vaporizes mercury faster than taking out an old amalgam.
We start with the point that silver fillings aren't silver, they're mercury. Dentistry has pulled a worldwide sham, a worldwide deception. They call amalgam silver fillings. They call it l'amalgame plata. They call it l'amalgame argent. Whatever the language, they keep saying it's silver. It's not silver.
Look at the sources of the contamination that are coming in, that are causing the poisoning in your body to begin with. Another point I want to make is most medical doctors are not trained in detoxification. They don't know anything about detoxification. And not only that, they don't know anything about heavy metal poisoning. They don't know anything about chemical poisoning. This is what happens all the time. People start having problems with mental ability. They start having mood swings. They start having muscle twitches. They start having problems with their bowels. They start having all these health problems. They go to the doctor's office, The doctor looks at each individual symptom and treats the individual symptom, never knowing, never testing for chemical and heavy metal toxicity. And this individual patient ends up going to 50, 60 different doctors over a period of 10 years and never gets the right answer.
Realize that when you're chewing, you're supposed to chew your food, but that means that the mercury vapor is being liberated inside your mouth and going into your body. So every day you're getting slightly worse. As you get slightly worse and as nutritional deficiencies, our food doesn't have what it's supposed to have. It's not grown in natural native environments now. It's grown on big farms with fertilizers and so on. So we're becoming increasingly nutritionally deficient. And as we become deficient and add more and more mercury into the system by chewing over the years, we are aggravating these problems. And people get worse as they get older and assume that's due to age. That's not due to age.
The homeopathic MD that I went to see discovered that I had a mercury level of about 37 micrograms per deciliter. So he went to looking to see where I was being exposed to mercury, and we ultimately discovered that I had all these fillings. So we removed the fillings. So when the fillings were removed, my cholesterol went from 700 at that time to 230 immediately, within just a couple of months.
Many of the ways we age is through oxidation. Oxidation is one of the major ways we age. Mercury vapor causes oxidation in the first place. Inflammation, in a large respect, has to do with the circulatory system. It's about almost all the diseases of inflammation are dealing with diseases of the inner lining of your blood vessel walls. Mercury damages blood vessel walls. The reason why cholesterol levels often shoot up in people with a lot of mercury fillings is that actually the LDL cholesterol is LDL is really a carrier for cholesterol, and cholesterol is a band-aid to take to damaged places on the blood vessel walls to heal them. So someone who has had a lot of mercury damage to their blood vessel walls is probably going to have high cholesterol levels to try and constantly repair that damage to their blood vessels.
After I studied what amalgam was, I really didn't know what amalgam was. And after I had these health problems, and after I studied what amalgam was, why they used amalgam, how long they'd been using amalgam, it was very irritating to me to find out that the problems with amalgam have been known for a long time. And they should not have been using amalgam. Even when I was 18 years old and they set the first amalgam fillings, they should not have been using amalgams even then.
I can't believe we're debating whether mercury is toxic. That's what I can't, we're really not missing anything. FDA is pretending that they are still trying to figure out if mercury is toxic. It's toxic if it goes into a racehorse. FDA knows that. The racehorse has major economic value. So they know they don't want it in racehorses. They know they don't want it in medicines. They banned it when it was going into an ointment that was rubbed on children's teeth that caused pink disease, caused a variety of health problems from mercury exposure. They know mercury exposure causes permanent neurological, reproductive, kills the baby in the womb, causes major and permanent brain damage, causes people to go mentally ill. They know all that. They know all that.
The pharmaceutical industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars presently. And if you were to say, what is the economic return that is likely to come from drugs that are already approved to the universe of drug companies, it is in the trillions of dollars. These are state-sponsored monopolies. They're the most powerful institutions in the world. And they influence governments, congresses, medical schools, medical publishing, the practice of medicine. They heavily influence every aspect of healthcare in this country and in every country that regulates drugs.
No, there's not transparency at FDA. Absolutely not. There's probably transparency for the corporate interests. Commissioner Homburg was on the board of Henry Schein Inc., which is the largest seller of amalgam in the world, in the United States, and I believe in the world. And she was challenged by me for participating. I wrote her a letter and I said, you cannot participate in this rule. You have a conflict of interest. She even signed a statement that she would not participate in any rule affecting Henry Schein while she owned Henry Schein stock or stock options. She continued to hold the stock options. She continued to work on the rule, and at some point she may have stopped working on the rule. They claim she did, but she never filed a disqualification statement.
The other thing is, if you find that mercury causes Alzheimer's disease, you have taken away a major income source for the pharmaceutical industries. They are trying, there are probably 70 items, in the making right now that are being used and touted as possible tests to slow down the rate of Alzheimer's disease or to detect it. And if you say, well, hey, all you have to do is get rid of the mercury out of your mouths and the rates will drop, there's no money to be made. And they lose their investment.
The dentist makes more money per chair per day with the mercury filling. That's why Native Americans are getting, 75% of Native Americans get amalgam, because they're not treated as human beings, they're treated as dollar signs when they walk in the office. And the dentist says, at the end of the day, I will have more money in my pocket by doing amalgam. I can get more of those done faster. And for lower income people, that's probably how dentistry in America views them.
I realized after a while what was the motivation, because I know that individual dentists did not do things deliberately to hurt their patients. But I think they had a lot to lose as a professional group. They could lose prestige, and they could be exposed to financial responsibility if it was shown that they harmed people. So in the background, there was a lot that made them afraid. And what I noticed was that there were a lot of, the dentists had a lot of influence in the health bureaucracy in Norway. And they didn't have as much influence in the environmental bureaucracy. So when the final ban finally came in 2008, it was the Ministry of Environment that declared the ban, and not the Ministry of Health. But they did say it was for health and environmental reasons.
When I got out of dental school, my practice was like most dental practices coming out of dental school. I placed mercury fillings, nickel-based crowns, I did root canal treatments, I did all the things that I learned how to do. It never made sense to me, however, why when they taught us the protocols about mercury safety, in dental school even, they taught us don't touch it, don't breathe it, don't heat it, don't rub it around against itself. And I couldn't imagine how that, when you finish the preparation of the materials, then you keep it in a sealed container so that it doesn't vaporize. And it never made sense why that same material was safe in somebody's mouth.
People who have higher levels of mercury have more illness problems. And indeed, when we take a look at people with epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, autism, Alzheimer's and all this, they almost always have dramatically higher levels of mercury and other toxic metals than other people who are their same age and are not ill. And you can generally count the number of fillings and say, you're going to be sicker, you have more of a problem. But you can't always make that assumption, because one is enough.
I love my family. And I'm not here to put anybody down. My family has never understood what's wrong with me, really. They never really have. I have a mother that's 84 now. She tries. But it's too hard on her. Excuse me. And the rest of my family just really don't, they don't understand. I think I gave up long ago with that. They just don't understand. But then a lot of people don't understand. Most doctors don't understand. when half the, 3/4 or half the medical profession doesn't understand, how can you expect the regular, everyday person that's not trained in medicine, or even if somebody is trained in medicine, how can you really expect them to? You can't. I think along the way, I think eventually these fillings are going to get banned. I mean, how long can a country go keeping doing this to its citizens when other countries have outlawed these fillings and they're not poisoning their people like this government has been? I do look along the way. I think it may be a while. I think there's some people in charge who probably are not ready to admit that they've done something that has been damn wrong. And sometimes when you've done something that's this big a thing, this big a problem to this many people over this many years, I mean 150 years, when you've done something like this, not too many people, I think, are gonna stand there and quickly say, we messed a lot of people up.